pride of the Walkers. My name is Michael Walker, and I'm 40 years old. If you think the hardest blows in life come from strangers or enemies, you're wrong. The deepest cuts come from family, the people you thought would stand beside you no matter what. The Walker name once stood tall in our town. It carried weight. People used to say, if a Walker gave you his word, you could build your future on it. At least, that's what my father believed. His name was James Walker, and he was the kind of man they don't make anymore. My dad had spent years at sea as a Navy man. He was tough, weathered by storms, his skin worn by salt and sun. But under that hard shell was a heart that believed in honor, hard work, and dignity. He used to tell me, Michael, money comes and goes. Respect is earned, not bought. And if you lose your honor, you lose yourself. We didn't have much. My mom, Mary, was a literature teacher at the local high school. Our home was modest. A little weathered around the edges, but filled with warmth. Mom filled our lives with books and stories, the kind that taught you about kindness, sacrifice, and courage. Our dinners were simple, but we ate them together, and in that small house, I felt rich. But my father had a brother, Richard Walker, and he believed in a very different world. Richard wasn't a man of sweat and calluses. He was a businessman, sharp, calculating, always chasing the next deal, the next dollar. His house sat high on the hill, a mansion overlooking the bay. Marble floors, fancy cars in the driveway, and his wife, Elizabeth, was the kind of woman who never left the house without a diamond necklace or designer shoes. And then there was their son, Ethan Walker. From the moment we were kids, Ethan made sure I knew the difference between us. When we'd come together for family gatherings, he'd parade his new toys, the latest gadgets, while I clutched the small gifts my parents could afford. Later, when we were teenagers, he'd roll up in a shiny new car while I was helping my dad fix old engines in the garage. My father would pull me aside and whisper, "Don't look at what they have, son. Gold without a soul is just metal." But Richard would laugh at him across the table, saying, "Honor doesn't pay the bills, James. You waste your life teaching that boy fairy tales. My son's gonna run the world while yours runs a workshop." Those words dug deep, but I didn't know then how far Richard was willing to go. When my father passed away, it felt like the ground disappeared beneath my feet. He left me his workshop down by the docks, a small, run-down building where he had fixed boats, engines, and anything else the townsfolk brought him. To others, it was a shack. To me, it was sacred. It was where I learned to work with my hands, where I listened to my dad's wisdom, where I felt closest to him. But Richard saw it differently. He saw it as a piece of land, prime property by the water. He used his connections, his lawyers, his money, and in the blink of an eye, that workshop was gone. He didn't even show up himself. He sent Ethan. I'll never forget the smirk on Ethan's face when he handed me the papers and said, "Not all Walkers are meant to be winners. You're the other kind." That night, sitting alone, I swore to myself I wouldn't forget. The years that followed were the hardest of my life. I worked days at a factory, nights fixing engines out of a rented garage. My hands were blistered, my back ached, but every dollar I earned was mine, and every job I did was done right. Slowly, word spread. People said, "Go to Walker. He won't cheat you. He'll fix it right." Meanwhile, Richard's empire was crumbling. Deals went bad. His partners turned on him. The newspapers talked about fraud, unpaid debts, and lawsuits. The mansion on the hill started to look emptier each time I drove by, and then, one rainy afternoon, it happened. I was locking up my shop when I saw him, Ethan. But he wasn't the same man who once looked at me with contempt. His shoulders were slumped, his clothes worn, his eyes hollow. He looked like life had wrung him out and left him with nothing. "Michael," his voice cracked, "I don't have anywhere left to go. I need a job, please." I stared at him. In that moment, I saw flashes of my father, his words about honor, about dignity. I thought of the humiliation, the years of struggle. The night I lost everything because of the Walkers on the hill. Every bone in my body wanted to slam the door in his face. But I didn't, because I realized something. Revenge doesn't heal. It eats you alive. So I said, "You'll work, not as a boss, not as a walker on a pedestal, but side by side with the men you once looked down on. You'll earn every dime. If you can do that, maybe, just maybe, you'll understand what respect means." Ethan lowered his head, and for the first time, I saw not arrogance, but humility. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into months. Ethan came to work every morning. At first, the other men sneered, waiting for him to give up. But he didn't. He carried boxes, cleaned oil spills, did the dirtiest jobs without complaint. He started to change, not with big speeches or dramatic apologies, but with steady, quiet effort. And you know what? I changed too. I realized that carrying bitterness only chained me to the past. Letting him prove himself gave me something else: peace. Today, when people say the name Walker in this town, it doesn't mean money, or deals, or mansions on the hill. It means hard work. It means honor. It means my father's legacy lives on. And when I tuck my kids into bed, I tell them what my dad told me. Respect isn't something you buy, it's something you earn. And as long as you hold on to your honor, you'll never lose yourself. That is the true pride of the Walkers.